My parents told everyone they had triplets, but they kept me a secret in the basement as the fourth child for spare parts. For 13 years I watched my sisters only through cameras. When they wanted my kidney, the three of them helped me dig out and revealed at night what our parents had truly done. My parents told everyone they had triplets. I was the fourth, the spare parts child they kept hidden in case something happened to the others. I lived in the basement, watching my siblings live through security cameras. They would sneak down at night to bring me food and teach me what they learned in school. On our birthday, when the others got cake upstairs, they brought me a single candle. "Make a wish to get out," they whispered. But how do you escape when you don't officially exist? The basement became my entire world the day we came home from the hospital. While my siblings received birth certificates, I received a storage room with a mattress. Mom explained it simply. "The insurance covers 3 babies. 4 would ruin us. But we're keeping you safe down here. Just in case." Just in case what? I didn't understand her. I watched my siblings grow up on a flickering monitor. First steps. First words. First day of school. They were labeled on the screen. Luna camera 1. Anna camera 2. Carmen camera 3. I had no camera, no name. Mom called me spare when she remembered to bring food. The insurance papers were kept in a box by my bed. I learned to read from those documents. Maximum coverage for triplet birth, 2.8 million euros. Quadruplet birth, 50,000 euro total. Below that, another paper that made my stomach ache. Blood type, rare O negative. Universal donor. Probability of a perfect match between identical siblings, 100%. My siblings discovered me by accident when we were 5. They were playing hide and seek when Anna found the basement door. 3 identical faces stared at me through the crack. "You're our ghost," Luna whispered. That night they came back. Every night after that, too. They would wait until our parents' snores started, then sneak down with whatever they could steal from dinner. Carmen taught me to read better. Anna showed me math. Luna brought down her drawings and taped them to my walls. "Why don't you live upstairs?" they asked. "Because I'm the emergency one," I said, repeating what I'd been told. They didn't understand. Neither did I, not really. Not until Carmen got sick. She was 8 when doctors found problems with her kidneys. I watched on the monitors as our parents paced in the living room. "We have options," Mom said. We were smart. We were prepared. That night, my siblings didn't come down. I could see them on the screens huddled in their room crying. The next morning, Dad came to the basement with a medical kit. "Just some tests," he said. Standard stuff. The needle hurt. The blood vials filled one by one. 6 of them. Then he checked my eyes, my reflexes, pressed on my stomach where my kidneys were. "Perfect," he muttered. "Absolutely perfect." Carmen got better with medication. The basement door was locked from the outside after that. My siblings started leaving notes for me under the door. "We're trying to find a way. We won't let them hurt you. You're our sister. Not spare parts." Years passed in that basement. I exercised to stay healthy. I had to keep the spare parts in good condition. I studied from old textbooks my siblings smuggled down. I watched them go to school, make friends, and live lives. Every birthday, 3 candles upstairs, 1 candle downstairs. The same wish every year. When we turned 12, Anna broke her arm so badly the bone poked through the skin. On the monitor, I saw our parents exchange a look. Dad's hand went to his pocket where he kept the basement key. "No," I whispered to the empty room. "Please no." But Anna's arm healed fine. The key stayed in his pocket. The worst part wasn't the isolation, it wasn't eating leftovers or sleeping on concrete. It was watching my sisters live, knowing I existed only as their backup. Their walking, talking medical supply. A ghost child waiting to be harvested. They tried to tell someone once. Luna broke down to a teacher about her other sister. The school called our parents. That night, I watched Mom explain about Luna's imaginary quadruplet, a trauma response to being a triplet. So creative, so disturbed. Therapy was recommended. The lock on my door was upgraded to a digital one. On our 13th birthday, I sat in the dark listening to the party upstairs. Laughter, music, voices of kids I would never meet. When midnight came, my sister snuck down with a cupcake they'd hidden. A single candle flickered in the dark. "Make a wish," they said, tears streaming down 3 identical faces. "Wish to get out. We're going to help you. We promise." I closed my eyes, blew out the candle. I wished for the one thing I had always wanted, to exist. But when morning came, I was still in the basement. Still watching their lives through grainy screens. Still the emergency child, the spare parts, the ghost in the basement that only 3 people in the world knew was real. Mom came down that afternoon with the medical kit again. More tests, more blood vials. "Just checking that everything is in working order," she said. "You can never be too prepared." She paused at the door, looking back at me. "You know you're loved, right? We kept you. We could have given you up for adoption, but we kept you. That's love." The door clicked shut behind her. The red light blinked on. In that moment, I knew I had a decision to make. One that would not only change my life but the lives of my triplet sisters forever. The decision crystallized in my mind like ice forming on glass. I couldn't wait for my sisters to save me. I couldn't depend on wishes or hope. If I wanted to exist, I had to make it happen myself. I started small. Every time Mom or Dad came down for tests, I memorized their routines. Dad always checked his phone exactly 3 times during each visit. Mom hummed the same tune while she drew blood. They were creatures of habit, and habits could be exploited. The security cameras became my teachers. I studied my parents like a scientist studies lab rats. Dad left for work at 7:43 a.m. every morning. He returned at 6:17 p.m. Mom went grocery shopping on Tuesdays. She had a book club on Thursdays. They fought about money on the 15th of every month when the bills arrived. My sisters noticed the change in me first. During their nightly visits, they'd find me doing push-ups, crunches, running in place. I had to stay strong not just as spare parts but as someone who could fight back. Anna brought down a notebook hidden in her math book. We developed a code. 1 knock on the pipes meant parents were awake. 2 knocks meant all clear. 3 meant an emergency. The notebook became our planning document, passed back and forth under the door. I drew diagrams of the house from memory and camera angles. I marked exit points, hiding spots, blind zones where the cameras couldn't see. My sisters filled in details from upstairs. Which floorboards creaked, which windows opened silently, where Dad kept his keys. The first real test came 3 weeks later. Carmen had a swim meet on a Saturday. Both parents would attend. Leaving at noon, returning at 4 p.m. A 4-hour window of opportunity. I had been practicing picking the digital lock with bobby pins my sisters had smuggled down. The mechanism was simple once you understood it. That morning, I watched them leave on the monitors. I counted to 300 to make sure they hadn't forgotten anything. Then I set to work on the lock. My hands trembled, but muscle memory took over. Click, click. The red light turned green. The door swung open for the first time in 5 years without an adult present. The basement stairs seemed impossibly tall. I climbed them slowly, legs shaking from more than the exertion. At the top, another door, this one unlocked. I pushed it open and stepped into a kitchen I had only ever seen through screens. Everything was wrong. The proportions, the colors, the smells. Real life didn't match the grainy images I had lived through. I touched the counter, the refrigerator, a chair, solid, real proof I wasn't dreaming. I wanted to explore everything. But time was limited. I found Dad's study. I searched his desk. Insurance papers, medical records, bank statements. I photographed everything with an old digital camera Anna had smuggled down months before. Evidence. Proof I existed. And 3 birth certificates. 3 tiny footprints. Nothing for a 4th child. But underneath, wrapped in tissue paper, was a 4th hospital bracelet. Baby girl. Same date, same time. Plus 3 minutes. I existed. I had proof. The garage door rumbled. They were back early. Panic flooded my system. I raced, taking the stairs 3 at a time, pulling the basement door shut behind me. The digital lock clicked just as I heard Mom's voice in the kitchen. My heart hammered as I watched them on the monitors. They moved through their routine, oblivious. But Carmen knew. During dinner, she kept glancing toward the basement door. That night, she slipped me a note. They came back early because Anna called them, said she felt sick. We bought you time. My sisters had created a diversion. They were learning to be conspirators. In the following weeks, we refined our system. Luna started art classes on Saturdays, giving us another window. Anna joined the debate club after school. Carmen began volunteering at the hospital. Each activity meant time away from the house, opportunities for me to practice existing. I learned to reset the lock from the inside, to move through the house without leaving a trace. I memorized where every object belonged, how every cushion sat. I became a ghost who could walk through walls without disturbing the dust. But Mom was growing suspicious. She started coming down at random times, checking my vitals, asking strange questions. "Do you ever think about leaving?" she asked one day while taking my blood pressure. "Do you understand why you're special?" I kept my face blank. I gave the answer she wanted. "I'm safe here. I'm the emergency one. I understand." She smiled, but her eyes remained troubled. That night, she installed a new camera in my room. I pretended not to notice it, but I had seen her hide the monitor in her bedroom closet. There's something deeply unsettling about how pragmatic this spare parts child is about her situation, as if they've normalized being kept as living organs. The way the parents frame this as love, while literally treating their fourth child like spare hearts, makes me wonder what kind of twisted logic they use to justify this horror show to themselves. She was watching me sleep. My sisters grew bolder in their rebellion. They started talking loudly about their imaginary sister at school, making her so present in conversations that teachers stopped correcting them. They drew pictures of 4 girls, wrote stories about quadruplets, made the impossible impossible to ignore. The school counselor called for another meeting. This time it was all 3 of them. They sat in those plastic chairs and told the same story. A sister in the basement, parents who lied. A girl who existed only as spare parts. The counselor's report labeled it a shared delusion and trauma bonding. Family therapy was recommended. My parents refused. They said they would handle it at home. Handling it came in the form of separation. Luna was moved to the guest room. Anna and Carmen were forbidden from spending time together unsupervised. Divide and conquer. But they had underestimated the bond between identical souls. We adapted. The messages became more elaborate, hidden in increasingly creative places. Luna left messages in her art. Anna coded plans into math homework. Carmen used her hospital volunteering to research organ donation laws. She printed information on a library computer. I studied every document she brought. I learned about consent, about bodily autonomy, about rights I supposedly didn't have. Knowledge became another form of strength, another tool in my arsenal. The cameras showed me everything. Dad's business was struggling. Mom's book club was really a wine club. They fought more, drank more, checked on me more. The pressure was building in the house like steam in a sealed pot. Then Anna got sick. Not broken arm sick, but really sick. A fever that wouldn't break, joints that swelled like balloons. The monitors showed them rushing her to the hospital at 3 a.m. I pressed my face against the screen, trying to see through the pixels to my sister's pain. The basement door opened at dawn. Both parents still in yesterday's clothes. Dad carried the medical kit. Mom held consent forms. "Just a precaution," she said. "Just in case. You understand, don't you? She's your sister." I understood perfectly. I understood that my existence had always been leading to this moment. This choice that was no choice. Give up parts of myself or let Anna suffer. The spare parts fulfilling their purpose. They took more blood than ever before. They ran tests with machines they'd rented, checking compatibility markers, tissue types, antibody levels. I submitted to it all, playing the compliant ghost while my mind raced. Anna's illness turned out to be autoimmune, treatable with medication, not transplants. But the testing continued. "Better safe than sorry," Mom said. "Better to be prepared." My sister's anger transformed into something harder, sharper. They stopped trying to convince adults and started planning for war. We had 6 months until our next birthday. 6 months to turn wishes into reality. The planning intensified after Anna's illness. My sister smuggled more supplies down through increasingly creative methods. Luna hid lockpicks in her paint tubes. Anna tucked wire cutters between textbook pages. Carmen brought medical supplies from her hospital volunteering, bandages and antiseptic hidden in the lining of her backpack. I practiced escaping through the ventilation system. The metal ducts were narrow, But years of limited food had kept me small. I mapped every turn, every junction, timing how long it took to reach different rooms. My fingernails broke against screws as I learned to remove grates silently. During one practice run, I managed to reach the living room grate. Through the slats, I watched my parents argue. Dad waved bank statements while Mom poured another glass of wine. Their voices carried clearly through the metal. The financial situation was worse than I had realized. Dad's business had lost 3 major contracts. Mom's spending hadn't adjusted. They argued about selling the house, downsizing, cutting expenses. Neither mentioned their 4th daughter eating leftovers in the basement. I crawled back through the ducts, dust coating my throat. Back in my room, I documented everything. Knowledge was ammunition. Their desperation made them dangerous but also vulnerable. The separation of my sisters couldn't stop our communication. We developed new methods. Luna painted messages in her art using specific color combinations only we understood. Anna created math problems whose answers spelled out words. Carmen left medical textbooks with highlighted passages about patient rights and bodily autonomy. Mom's paranoia intensified. She installed motion sensors in the hallway leading to the basement. The new cameras had night vision, infrared capabilities I hadn't seen before. She started marking food levels, weighing portions before bringing them down. One evening, she came in with the medical kit and a different expression, not routine checkup. Something had shifted. She drew blood while studying my face, comparing it to something on her phone. Pictures of my sisters, I realized, looking for differences. After she left, I examined my reflection in the metal food tray. 13 years of basement life had left their mark. My skin was paler than my sister's. My hair, cut with smuggled scissors, hung unevenly. My eyes had a hollow quality theirs did not. I looked like their ghost. The next escape attempt came sooner than planned. Dad announced a business trip, flying out Thursday morning, returning Sunday night. Mom had committed to helping with a school fundraiser all day Saturday. Another window of opportunity. I spent the week preparing. I strengthened my fingers with exercises. I practiced the lock mechanism until I could open it in under 30 seconds. I studied the motion sensor patterns my sisters had documented. Thursday arrived. Dad left for the airport at dawn. I watched him load his suitcase, kiss Mom goodbye, wave to my sisters at breakfast. The taxi pulled away at 5:47 a.m. Mom followed her routine precisely. Breakfast for the triplets. Drove them to school, returned home, checked on me. She brought oatmeal and began the morning tests, blood pressure, temperature, reflexes. I submitted passively while memorizing the new sensor positions she had installed. Friday passed slowly. I exercised, planned, waited. My sisters attended school, participated in activities, maintained their normal facades. Through the cameras, I watched them act out their lives while knowing they were counting the hours until Saturday. Saturday morning, Mom got ready for the fundraiser. She put on her best dress, did her hair carefully. The effort seemed excessive for a school event. Through the speakers, I heard her on the phone confirming meeting times, discussing booth assignments. She would be gone from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. She checked on me before leaving. She brought a larger breakfast than usual, guilt offerings. She performed abbreviated tests. She reminded me to be good, stay quiet, remember I was loved. The basement door clicked shut with its electronic beep. I waited until her car disappeared from the garage camera. I counted to 500. Then I began. The lock yielded quickly to my practiced fingers. The door opened silently on hinges I had convinced Mom needed oiling. The motion sensors were positioned high, designed for adult heights. I crawled beneath their reach, pressing myself against the walls. The kitchen looked different in daylight. Sunlight streamed through windows I had only ever seen as dark rectangles on monitors. I wanted to stand in that light, to feel warmth on my skin, but time was precious. I found Mom's purse hanging on a chair. Inside, her wallet held photos. 3 school pictures of my sisters, nothing else. Her phone required a passcode I didn't know. But her car keys jingled with promise. The garage offered new possibilities. Tools hung on pegboards. A ladder leaned against the wall. Boxes labeled Christmas decorations and old clothes lined shelves. In one box I found baby clothes, 4 identical outfits. She had kept them all. A car door slammed outside. My heart stopped. Through the garage window, I saw Luna getting out of a neighbor's minivan. She was supposed to be at art class. Why was she home? I scrambled back through the house, staying low. The motion sensors blinked as I passed beneath them. The basement door was still open. I pulled it shut just as the front door opened, but the lock wouldn't engage from the inside without the code. The red light blinked mockingly. I had practiced opening it, not closing it. The door remained unlocked. Evidence of my escape. Footsteps crossed overhead. The familiar pattern of Luna going to her room, then the bathroom. Then she headed toward the kitchen, toward the basement door. I held my breath. Through the crack under the door I saw her shadow. The handle turned slightly, then stopped. 3 knocks on the door. Our emergency signal. I knocked back once. Danger. Her shadow moved away. I heard her in the kitchen making noise. Cabinets opening, dishes clattering, creating an alibi. Then her footsteps returned. Something slid under the door. Piece of paper. Mom forgot fundraiser money. Coming back. Hide. Panic flooded my system. I grabbed the paper and flew down the stairs. My room looked normal, but the unlocked door screamed my escape. Think. The ventilation grate hung loose from my practice sessions. I tore it fully open and squeezed inside, pulling it shut behind me. Metal edges cut into my shoulders as I forced myself deeper into the duct. Mom's car pulled into the garage 2 minutes later. Her heels clicked on the kitchen floor. They stopped at the basement door. The handle turned. Through the grate, I watched her enter my room. Her face went white. She spun around, checking corners, looking under the mattress. She ran back upstairs. I heard her race through the house, doors slamming, her voice calling my sisters' names. She returned to the basement with her phone. She called Dad. Mom's detective skills need work, and she's only now noticing baby clothes for 4 kids that match the imaginary sister her daughters keep mentioning in school. Pretty big clue right there. Her words came in fragments. The lock. She's gone. How did she find out? Then she noticed the ventilation grate, slightly askew, not quite flush. Her eyes followed the ductwork across the ceiling. She grabbed a chair, stood on it, pressed her face to the grate. Our eyes met through the metal slats. Time froze. Neither of us moved. Then Mom smiled. Not her usual practice smile, but something colder. She put the chair back and went upstairs. I heard tools rattling in the garage. She returned with a drill and metal brackets. Methodically, she began securing every grate in the basement, drilling brackets over each opening, trapping me in the walls. Hours passed in the metal tomb. My shoulders cramped. My breathing grew shallow. Dust coated my throat. Through tiny cracks I watched Mom work. She hummed as she drilled, the same tune she hummed during blood draws. When she finished, she stood in the center of my room and spoke to the ceiling. Her voice carried through the ducts. She explained how she had always known this day would come, how she had prepared. The brackets were temporary just until Dad got home. Then they would have me properly extracted, safely, with no harm to the merchandise. She left water bottles and energy bars on my mattress. A gesture of kindness, she called it. Proof of love. Then she went upstairs to wait. Through the ducts, I heard my sisters return from their activities. Normal conversation. No hint of the drama below. Mom served dinner, helped with homework, tucked them in, the perfect mother to her visible children. Night fell. The metal grew cold. My body screamed from the confined position, but I waited, listened, planned. Around midnight, a soft scratching came from above, metal on metal. One of the brackets loosened. A grate lifted. Carmen's face appeared. Tears streaming, she reached down. She pulled me up through the opening into the laundry room. My legs buckled. Pins and needles shot through every limb. Carmen held me up, guided me to the bathroom. I saw myself in the mirror, covered in dust, bleeding from metal cuts, looking more ghost than girl. She helped me clean up while whispering urgently. Anna was standing guard. Luna had created a diversion earlier, pretending to be sick so Mom would check on her instead of the basement. They had stolen tools from the garage, worked in shifts to free me. But we couldn't leave. Mom had activated the security system. All doors and windows were armed. The code had been changed. We were all trapped until morning. Carmen led me to her room. Anna and Luna were waiting. Faces pale with fear and determination. We huddled together. 4 identical girls planning in whispers. They showed me what they had gathered. Money saved from allowances, a backpack with supplies, phone numbers for emergency services. The plan was simple. When Mom opened the door in the morning, all 4 of us would run. Go to the neighbor's house, call for help, prove I existed. But plans rarely survive first contact with reality. Mom didn't wait for morning. At 3 a.m. the bedroom door opened. She was silhouetted against the hall light, holding the medical kit. Her eyes found me immediately among my identical sisters. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The message was clear. Come willingly, or watch your sisters suffer the consequences. I started to get up. Anna grabbed my arm. Luna blocked my path. Carmen stood between me and Mom. 3 identical faces set in determination. Mom's expression shifted. Surprise, anger, something like fear. She hadn't expected unified resistance. One disobedient daughter was manageable. 4 was a crisis. She tried to reason, explained about family loyalty, about sacrifices, about love that required hard choices. My sisters didn't move, didn't respond. They just stood between me and Mom. The standoff lengthened. Mom's phone buzzed. Dad texting from his hotel. She glanced down, distracted. In that moment, Anna lunged for the medical kit. It flew from Mom's hands, contents scattering across the floor. Chaos erupted. Mom grabbed Anna. Luna pushed her back. Carmen pulled me toward the window. The security alarm shrieked as she shattered the glass with a lamp. Lights flashed outside. The alarm company's automatic response. Neighbors' windows lit up. Dogs barked. The outside world was suddenly intruding on our family secret. Mom froze. She calculated. The alarm would bring questions. Police investigations. 4 identical girls. One with no documentation. Her careful construction was crumbling. She made her choice. She ran to the security panel. She entered the code, silencing the alarm, then turned back to find us climbing out the broken window. What followed wasn't a chase. It was a negotiation through action. Mom trying to maintain control, us refusing to comply. The balance of power shifting with every move. We reached the backyard. Mom kept talking fast about misunderstandings, about fixing everything, about being a family again. Her words fell on deaf ears. The neighbor's motion lights clicked on. Mr. Diaz stepped onto his porch, concerned by the commotion. Mom smiled, waved, called out that everything was fine, just a little accident. So sorry for the noise. But 4 identical girls standing barefoot in the yard at 3 a.m. was hard to explain, especially when one was dusty, bleeding, and looked like she'd been living in the walls. Mr. Diaz's expression shifted from concern to suspicion. Mom saw it too. She realized the story was unraveling. She made one last attempt. She reached for me. She promised everything would be okay if I just came inside. If we all came inside. My sisters formed a wall, not aggressive, just resolute. Mom's hand dropped to her side. The moment stretched. A family balanced on the edge of change. Then Mom turned and walked back into the house. Defeated or strategic, I couldn't tell. We spent the remaining hours of the night at Mr. Diaz's house. He didn't ask questions, just provided blankets and hot chocolate while his wife tended to my cuts. My sisters took turns sleeping and watching the window toward our house. Dawn brought Dad's early return. His rental car screeched into the driveway at 6 a.m. Mom must have called him. Through Mr. Diaz's window, we watched our parents argue on the lawn. Dad's gestures were sharp, angry. Mom's responses seemed pleading. Then Dad saw us watching. His face went through a transformation, shock, recognition, something like grief. He started toward Mr. Diaz's house, but Mom grabbed his arm. They went inside together. An hour later, another car arrived. A woman in a suit carrying a briefcase. Through the window, we watched her enter our house. The 3 of them talked in the living room. Documents spread on the coffee table. Mom crying, Dad stone-faced. My sisters explained what they had done, the calls they'd made while I was trapped, the reports they'd filed, the evidence they'd gathered for years, photos of the basement, recordings of conversations, proof of my existence. The woman was from Child Protective Services. The reports had triggered an investigation. 4 identical children, 1 undocumented, medical tests without consent, educational neglect. The case was complicated but clear. By noon, more officials arrived. Police, social workers, medical personnel. Our house became a crime scene. The basement photographed, evidence collected, statements taken. I was taken to the hospital first. 13 years of basement life had taken their toll. Vitamin deficiencies, muscle weakness, dental problems. Nothing irreversible, the doctors assured. Nothing that couldn't be healed with time and care. My sisters stayed with me. They took turns holding my hand during exams. They translated medical terminology I didn't understand. They made sure everyone knew there were 4 of us, not 3. The legal complexities took months to unravel. Birth certificate applications, custody hearings, criminal charges. But that first day, sitting in a hospital bed with sunlight filtering through the windows, surrounded by sisters who had risked everything for me, I felt something new. I existed. Not as spare parts, not as insurance, not as a ghost in the basement, but as a person with rights, with choices, with a future. The road ahead was uncertain. Foster care loomed, separation possible, therapy definite. But my sisters had given me the greatest gift. They had chosen me over comfort, over security, over family peace. They had made me real. The hospital discharge papers crackled in my hands as we stood outside the main entrance. 3 days of tests, evaluations, and documentation had passed in a blur of fluorescent lights and disinfectant smells. My sisters flanked me, their presence a constant reminder that I wasn't dreaming. The social worker, Mrs. Sebastian, led us to a van marked with a state seal. She had been assigned to our case, a woman with kind eyes who spoke in measured tones about temporary placements and court procedures. I climbed into the vehicle, my legs still unsteady from years of limited movement. The drive took us past our house. Yellow tape crisscrossed the front door. Official vehicles lined the driveway. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of investigators carrying boxes from the basement, evidence of my existence being catalogued, photographed, filed away. We arrived at a group home 20 minutes later, a converted Victorian with too many windows and not enough privacy. Mrs. Sebastian explained the rules during our tour of the facility. Shared rooms, scheduled meals, mandatory counseling sessions, freedom with limits. My sisters were placed in one room. I was in another with a girl named Victoria who barely acknowledged my arrival. The bed was narrow, but it had clean sheets. The window opened to let in fresh air. Small upgrades from concrete floors and recycled air. That first night, I lay awake counting the differences. No cameras watching, no locks on the doors, the ability to go to the bathroom without permission. Simple things that felt revolutionary. Why did Mom think metal brackets would actually hold a determined 13-year-old who'd already figured out how ducts work? Her confidence while humming and drilling seems bizarre for someone who just discovered their secret child can escape through vents. It's like she's not taking the real problem seriously. The next few weeks blurred together in a routine of appointments and evaluations. Psychologists tested my cognitive development. Doctors monitored my physical recovery. Lawyers prepared paperwork for my legal existence. Each professional added notes to an ever-growing file about the girl who had lived in a basement. My sisters attended the same appointments when possible. We sat in waiting rooms, for identical faces drawing stares from other patients. They helped me navigate insurance forms, medical terminology, and legal procedures I didn't understand. Together, we learned the bureaucracy of becoming real. The custody hearings began 6 weeks after our escape. I watched from a wooden bench as lawyers argued about our future. Mom and Dad sat at separate tables, their own lawyers whispering strategies. They looked smaller in court, diminished without the power of locked doors and security cameras. The evidence mounted during the proceedings. The photos of the basement, medical records showing years of unauthorized blood draws, the insurance documents that reduced me to a financial calculation, each piece building a case for why we couldn't go back home. Mom took the stand on the third day. She wore her best dress, the one from the failed fundraiser. Her testimony painted a picture of difficult choices and maternal love. She had kept me safe, she insisted, protected from a world that wouldn't understand. She had fed me, educated me, never abandoned me as others might have. Dad's testimony focused on financial pressures, the insurance system that penalized larger families, the medical bills that would have ruined them, He presented spreadsheets showing how they had allocated resources, as if my existence could be justified through careful accounting. My sisters testified together, a united front of matching faces and shared resolve. They described discovering me, the nightly visits, the growing realization that love shouldn't require locks. Anna showed her coded math homework. Luna presented her paintings with hidden messages. Carmen submitted her research on patient rights and bodily autonomy. I testified last. The courtroom grew quiet as I described 13 years of watching life through screens, the birthday candles wished on alone, the medical tests presented as love. The moment I realized I existed only as spare parts for my real sisters. The judge deliberated for 2 days. When he returned, his ruling was comprehensive. Parental rights terminated. Criminal charges recommended. A restraining order preventing contact until we turned 18. The gavel fell with finality on the family we had been. Foster care placement came next. The system struggled with 4 identical teenage girls who refused separation. Most families couldn't accommodate quadruplets. Group homes meant splitting up. Mrs. Sebastian worked tirelessly, making calls, filing petitions, seeking exceptions. The solution came from an unexpected source. Dr. Nicholas, one of the physicians who treated me, had a brother who ran a therapeutic foster home. They specialized in sibling groups, trauma cases, children who needed more than traditional placement. The facility was 2 hours away, but it meant staying together. We moved on a Tuesday. For matching suitcases filled with donated clothes and new documentation. The therapeutic home was a sprawling farm with separate wings for different sibling groups. We were assigned to the East Wing, for bedrooms connected by a common area. The house parents, Mr. and Mrs. Dawn, had been fostering children for 20 years. They understood the importance of maintaining sibling bonds while encouraging individual growth. They gave us space to adjust, time to learn how to exist in a world with choices. I struggled with the freedom at first. 13 years of confinement had left habits that were hard to break. I hoarded food in my room until Mrs. Dawn gently explained the kitchen was always available. I asked permission for everything until Mr. Dawn reminded me that basic needs didn't require approval. School enrollment proved challenging. My education consisted of smuggled textbooks and lessons stolen from my sisters. Placement tests revealed gaps in my knowledge and unexpected areas of strength. They started me on a modified program, catching up on 13 years of missed formal education. My sisters attended the local high school while I worked with tutors. We developed new routines around this separation. Morning breakfast together. Evening study sessions where they helped me understand concepts that came naturally to them. Nightly walks where we processed the strangeness of our new reality. Physical therapy addressed years of muscle atrophy and confined movement. The therapist designed exercises to build strength, improve coordination, expand my range of motion. Each session pushed limits, muscles remembering how to function beyond survival. The therapist documented my progress on charts and graphs, grip strength improving, flexibility increasing, stamina building, tangible proof that bodies could heal, adapt, become stronger even after years of limitation. Group therapy sessions at the foster home brought together children with different traumas but similar needs. We sat in a circle, sharing stories or holding silence as needed. I learned that basement prisons came in many forms, that survival looked different for everyone. Individual counseling proved more difficult. The therapist, Dr. Victoria, specialized in cases like mine. She had gentle methods for coaxing out memories, examining the complex psychology of being raised as spare parts. We worked through layers of conditioning, beliefs instilled by parents who saw me as insurance rather than a daughter. The legal proceedings continued in the background. Criminal charges were filed against our parents. Fraud for the insurance claims, child endangerment, unlawful imprisonment. The list grew as investigators uncovered more evidence. We testified in depositions, recounting details for official records. Mom and Dad's trials were scheduled for the following year. Their lawyers negotiated plea bargains, seeking reduced sentences in exchange for admissions of guilt. We received updates through Mrs. Sebastian. Each development added closure to our past. Financial restitution became part of the legal resolution. The insurance money they had claimed for triplets while hiding a fourth child. The medical expenses for unnecessary tests, the educational costs for homeschooling that never occurred, the numbers added up into a trust fund for our future. Winter arrived with new challenges. The holidays approached, traditions we had never shared equally. The foster home hosted celebrations that acknowledged different backgrounds, different needs. We decorated a tree together, for identical ornaments among dozens of unique ones. On Christmas morning, I experienced my first gift exchange without a hierarchy. No watching through screens as others opened presents. No single gift passed through the basement door. Just 4 sisters among other foster siblings, all equally included. Normalcy felt surreal. Sitting at a table without locks. Choosing my own food portions, walking outside without surveillance. Each moment ordinary, yet extraordinary when you had lived without them. School progress came slowly but steadily. My tutors adapted lessons to my learning style, filling in gaps while building on strengths. Math came easily. Years of calculating escape possibilities had built strong analytical skills. Reading comprehension was advanced from studying medical documents and insurance policies. Science fascinated me, especially biology, though the irony was not lost on anyone. Spring brought conversations about the future, college applications for my sisters, continued educational planning for me. The trust fund would cover expenses. Our parents' crimes inadvertently funding the futures they had tried to limit. We researched schools that would keep us geographically close while allowing for individual growth. The anniversary of our escape passed quietly, 1 year since the window shattered, since the alarm shrieked, since we stood barefoot in the yard. We marked it with a small ceremony, lighting candles not for wishes, but for remembrance. Mom and Dad's sentencing occurred in May, 3 to 5 years for various charges with the possibility of parole. The judge considered their lack of prior criminal records, their cooperation with authorities. We didn't attend the sentencing, choosing to move forward rather than witness their consequences. Summer brought new milestones. I passed my high school equivalency exam. My sisters graduated from high school with honors. We attended their ceremony, for identical faces in the crowd, no longer divided by circumstances. The therapeutic foster home began preparing us for independent living. Budgeting classes, cooking lessons, life skills that assumed futures beyond locked doors. We learned together, filling in gaps in practical knowledge. My physical health continued to improve. Vitamin deficiencies resolved. Dental work completed. Muscle tone approached normal for my age. Each medical checkup showed progress. Bodies healed from years of neglect. As our 18th birthday approached, decisions loomed. The foster care system would release us. College acceptances arrived for my sisters. I had been accepted to a community college, a starting point for catching up on formal education. The trust fund would support us, but independence meant more than financial security. We chose to rent an apartment together, near the community college. For bedrooms, no basement, windows that open wide, multiple exits. Security that meant protection, not prison. A space to continue healing while building futures. The move-in happened gradually. Buying furniture felt significant. Choosing items for permanence rather than survival. Every decision was ours to make. Paint colors, furniture placement, rules that protected rather than confined. Choosing paint colors after 13 years of basement gray must feel like picking out your entire personality from a hardware store. Talk about pressure to get your first real decision right. On our birthday, we had our own celebration. A cake with 18 candles divided equally. No hierarchy, no hidden children. Just 4 sisters who had survived the impossible by refusing to abandon each other. I registered for fall courses, general education requirements while I decided on a major. The campus felt overwhelming after years of confinement, but my sisters guided me through registration, showed me buildings, helped me navigate this new world. That first day of class, I sat in a lecture hall surrounded by strangers who knew nothing of basements or spare parts. I existed simply as another student, anonymous in the best way. My notebook open to a fresh page, ready to be filled with knowledge chosen rather than smuggled. The professor began discussing cellular biology. I took notes, understanding more than I expected from years of studying my own medical records. Education as a choice rather than a survival strategy, learning because I wanted to, not because I had to stay smart enough to escape. After class, I met my sisters for lunch in the cafeteria. We sat together at a table, visible to everyone, no longer divided by floors and locks. Anna talked about her engineering courses. Luna described her art history class. Carmen shared excitement about pre-med requirements. 4 identical faces with diverging paths held together by shared history and chosen bond. We had survived by refusing to see each other as competitors for resources or love. Now we would thrive by continuing that choice, supporting individual growth while maintaining connection. That evening, I sat at my desk in our apartment. Textbooks spread before me. No cameras watching, no locks confining. The window beside me was open, letting in night air and the distant sounds of normal life. I opened my laptop. I began to write my first assignment. The prompt asked for a personal essay on overcoming challenges. I stared at the blank page, considering how to condense 13 years into acceptable paragraphs, how to explain existence as insurance without sounding fictional, how to describe freedom to those who had never known confinement. I began simply. I spent 13 years preparing for a life I wasn't supposed to have. The words flowed. The truth found its way onto the page. Not for sympathy or shock value, but as a testament that survival took many forms, that families could be prisons and love could be locks, that existence itself could be an act of rebellion. My sisters studied in the living room, their presence a comfortable backdrop. We had established new routines around school schedules, shared meals, quiet hours, boundaries that protected rather than divided, rules we had chosen together. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but ours to shape. There would be more challenges, relationships to navigate without the framework of hierarchy, career decisions without predetermined roles, the ongoing process of learning to exist as more than someone's emergency plan. But tonight I had homework to complete, classes to attend tomorrow, a life to build from the foundation of finally being real. I wrote steadily, no longer a ghost in the basement, but a student with assignments, a sister with choices, a person with a future. The essay concluded as midnight approached. I saved the document, closed my laptop, got ready for bed. Through my window, the city lights glowed with possibility. Somewhere in that city, in separate cells, our parents served their sentences. But here, in this apartment, 4 sisters continued the process of turning survival into life. I set my alarm for morning classes, charged my phone, turned off the lamp. In darkness I could banish at will. I fell asleep to the sound of my sisters breathing in nearby rooms, no longer spare parts but whole people. We had claimed our existence by refusing to be divided. The alarm would bring tomorrow's challenges, new lessons, continued healing, the ongoing work of building lives worth living. But tonight, we were simply 4 sisters who had chosen each other over comfort, truth over silence, freedom over security. And that choice, renewed daily in small acts of independence and connection, was how we continued to exist, not as someone's backup plan, but as ourselves, whole, real, and free. Thank you for letting me think out loud with you today. Funny how a few questions can completely flip your perspective, huh? Until we meet again. If you made it to the end, leave a comment. I love reading all of your comments.